Well, welcome to the week 2 recording for game design. And you can see that week 2 runs from January 14th through January 20th. And as always, on my recordings and my work, I divide it up into 2 different sets. So this could be work that you could start on Tuesday, finish on Wednesday, or just do all of Tuesday. And this stuff you'd want to do on Thursday. This is really a short unit, so I think you could probably get this sections A and section B done, including watching this recording, and the coursework probably in less than an hour. Schedule it however you want, but by setting the days for you Tuesday and Thursday, I think it makes it easier for you to schedule your work. So just a couple reminders that week 1, of course, you'll want to do week 1 work, and in week 1 we have all of this getting started stuff that's right up here in the top, all the getting started and everything. And then the second part of week 1 was the course overview unit, right down here, the course overview unit. So week 1 had 2 different things that you had to do. So please make sure you get all that stuff done. Another couple of reminders is that all the course recordings I'll have listed here. So there's the getting started recording and the course overview unit recording to help you do the write-ups for those. And here's a short video you can watch, 8 minutes, just how to be successful in online school. So take a look at that, maybe it'll help you out. So looking again at week 2, we're going to start the game elements unit. You have an analyzing game elements assignment you'll do. And this assignment, these are online games, and some of your student computers might be blocked, but here's how you can do it on your desktop. There should be an icon that says computer safety and tips. And I didn't see this on my machine, but a fellow student of yours said go to the bottom where you see McAfee web protection, click on it a couple of times and then disable it. Then you should be able to get into this content. So you'll do that analysis and turn it in. Then you have a quiz, the gameplay quiz, and make sure you look at the quiz preview before that. Then for Thursday, you have the goal setting quiz. So you read through section B and then you have a goal setting quiz. And as far as the quizzes go, right here are the quiz previews for this whole unit. Quiz previews right there for you. Okay, jumping into the game elements unit. Now this game elements unit, you can see that you're just doing sections A and B as far as your work this week. C, D, and E will be for next week. But this recording covers A, B, C, D, and E. And this recording is just going to be one write-up for this whole recording, even though it's week 2 and 3. So when we get into this, see that now we're going to start looking at game design. And game design and all the elements of game design is what we're going to look at, and this is what gets into how people think about creating games and how the games become addictive to gamers, how you get people interested in your games. So in this unit, we'll understand different game elements that go to make up a game, describe and analyze how gaming is evolving, understand and differentiate different generations of games, the different gaming platforms, and understand about plots and goals in games. Now here's some of the work you'll be doing, but of course we're not doing any of the discussions, and some of the point totals have been changed because I changed my class so it's based on 1,000 points, so some of your points may be changed a little bit, so always look at the grade book. Now this is your first assignment, so you can see it's right here, and in this assignment they want you to go look at 3 games, so this is where you might have to take off that or disable that protection with McAfee. But you'll go into these games and you'll fill out this worksheet. So I'm going to click on the worksheet, open it, and then you should see the worksheet on your screen. Hopefully you do. And in this worksheet, you can see that this is going to be the first game right here. You'll fill that in and the web address you got to it. And look at the story and give it a scale of 1 to 5. How do you think it ranks in here? With 0 is poor, 5 is excellent. And the way you can do this, you can just mark mark bold on the ones that you for your answer, although bold doesn't show up very well, does it? So you could do an underline under what your answer is if you choose to. So you'll review the game, and these are game elements. Story is a game element. Characters are a game element. Challenges and strategies are game elements. Rules are part of the game elements. So those are parts of the game elements. And you need to know what those things are, because when you start designing your own game, you'll address each of those game elements. Then down in this box for each game, you put a description about the game, your impression of it. So that's game 1, there's game 2, there's game 3. Then when you finish this, just do File, Save As. Then you should have a folder on your computer called Game Design. If you don't have one, make sure you make one. And just call this Analyzing Game Elements. That's the name of this document, Analyzing Game Elements. So that's some easy points for you. Okay, back to our game design. Now we're getting into section A. Now before we jump into these sections, let's go look at the Class Connect write-up. So here's the Class Connect write-up. We want to make sure we answer these questions as we go along. And remember, the way you do this, you just highlight the whole thing, right-click Copy, then paste it into a word processor. So just like I say right here, paste it into a word processor. Find the answers as you watch this recording, and once you find an answer, you can hit pause. Then you go write the answer directly below the item. Check your spelling and all that. Then once you have them all answered in your word processor, then you highlight the questions and the answers and the numbers, put it as text in the drop box. Do not attach a file. Okay, so in section A, what does it mean that gameplay starts from the top and moves its way down? Or gameplay design, and what are the 3 main reasons Super Mario was addictive? I have a couple of typing errors in that, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that. So what are the 3 main reasons Super Mario was addictive? So make sure we answer those as we go along, right? So that's the Class Connect write-up. So now, why gameplay? And you see that Charles Darwin talks about how play is important. And of course, these days with addictive gaming, even adults really get into video games and things like that. Although adults played games a long, long time ago when I was younger, pinball games. Those were the video games of today. They were like video games are to you today. And you read down here where it talks about how the cerebrum and the cerebellum, different parts of the brain, work as you do games, and how they are part of the reason that we do gaming. So in this section, describe gameplay and its elements, apply gameplay and elements to game design. So gameplay designing. So you can read through this, what starts talking about how strategy and arcade games are based on logic, cognition, and then shooting and racing games are more on reflexes. So gaming isn't just for particular skills that a person has. There are different games that pertain to different skills that everyone has. Hardcore gamers, as they say, they find games addictive and they can't take their hands off of controllers. And nowadays with smartphones, people play games on their phones all the time. My son is playing games constantly. So it gets to where he's doing that more than his homework, which some of you might be in the same boat, and that's probably not a good idea. You can read down through here about how gaming, how people evolve with games, and how as we get older, some of us just continue doing games. Now, gameplay design, as it says, should be similar to our lives. So the events of the story lead to the finality or the accomplishment of goals or something like that, because that's what we do in our life, right? We live our life so we can accomplish different goals in our life. And it says gameplay starts from the top and moves its way down. What that means is that gameplay starts from the goal, and then you design the steps to get there. So next week, week 3, when you start designing your own game and thinking about your own game, you need to think about what your main goal is, and then you design backwards. So that's what it means by top and moves its way down. Now don't just copy this text. I'd like it in your own words, please. Super Mario. So this talks about Super Mario. All of you have played it, or you've probably seen people play it. And of course, Mario races through Mushroom Kingdom. It has many challenges to try to save the princess and things like that. So really, very interesting game. You collect coins along the way and throw fireballs and all kinds of things. So, even though graphically it wasn't really enhanced back in the day, it was an addictive game because people really liked the challenges that it had, and it had checkpoints along the way. And then as you got farther along, then you had fewer checkpoints. So, and you could collect things along the way. So that was one reason that Mario was so addictive. But you can see down here, you can go online, you can play Mario World. So take a chance with that. Go ahead and play with that a little bit. But now if you think of Super Mario, here's how you could analyze it. Okay, what is the goal? So games need to have goal. How can you keep the player's interest? So you can read through that, how you can keep a player's interest. What would make a more advanced gamer interested in the online version? Well, online it's harder, more difficulty, etc. So that's analyzing a game. And if you look down here, we think about Nintendo's Super Mario Brothers and some of the key elements. And Super Mario Brothers, the plot was good, the difficulty increased as the game progresses, there were specific challenges at each level. So these are three main reasons that Super Mario ended up being an addictive game. Three main reasons right here. Is there any one game element more important than others? Not really. Game elements are all independent of each other. I mean, they work together, but kind of stand on their own too. Innovative gameplay. As you start to design your game in this course, think about innovation, meaning being creative, being the first one to make something. Here's an interactive. You can go through to rank different elements and the importance of the designs. You can hit start and go through that on your own. Elements of gameplay quiz. So there's your elements of gameplay quiz right there. Here's the quiz previews. Make sure you preview the quiz before you go into it, because you do not get to redo quizzes in my classes. You do not. So that was section A. Okay, section B. Well, let's go look at the write-ups. If we have any questions from section B. In setting goals for games, what is the common structure of all games? Give an example of how gameplay may change with difficulty level. So we're in section B. So setting goals, and this talks about Michael Jordan. He had goals of wanting to be the best basketball player in the world, so he had steps to get there. And that's how it is in life. If you have a goal to do something, then you have steps that you need to go through, and then you face challenges along the way. In this section, you're going to look at the importance of the plots and goals, analyze winning and losing conditions in games. So setting goals. So of course, games have a common structure. And they have an ultimate goal, but then there are a number of sub-goals which have to be attained to get to that main goal. So like in a race car game, you have laps, and the laps could be considered the sub-goals, but then you have to go across a finish line first. That's reaching the main goal. And there are issues along the way, like you have to have pit stops during the race, or you could get in a crash and things like that. So you can see what goals are. Goals are getting you to your final destination. And the things about goals, essentially all goals they start with an ultimate goal, and there are sub-goals that lead up to that ultimate goal. So that's how goals are used in games. Then attaining goals. So once we know about goals, we know we have to attain them to move on, right? And of course there's levels of difficulty: expert, intermediate, novice. So of course expert is the highest, novice is the lowest, and as you play games more and more and get to higher levels, then you end up with a higher ranking. Some games actually say, okay, now you're an expert sharpshooter, or you're a novice fisherman if it's a fishing game, or a novice basketball player or something like that, or a rookie basketball player. So it really depends on the game and how they talk about your skill level as you move throughout the game and conquer different goals. Sometimes games call it the boss level. When you finally get to the final goal and you start to challenge that final goal. So think about the game you're going to create and what the attaining of goals, what it leads to for the players. Winning or losing conditions. All games have a finality where the protagonist either has completed all the levels, completed all the subplots, and they have their defeats and things like that. So you can read about the winning and losing conditions in games. Actually, I think I skipped over that write-up question. What was it? Give an example of how a game may change difficulty levels. That's from page 4. Oh, let's see, where did that come from? Okay, so as the difficulty goes up in a game, so the difficulty increases, it increases the skills of the player in terms of the strategy and the ability. So if we think of that Class Connect write-up question, which was give an example of how gameplay changed with difficulty levels, well, I just said that as you get into higher levels, then the gameplay gets much more challenging. You have to use different strategies and different abilities as you move through different levels. Okay, we looked at winning and losing conditions. Here's a 24-hour relay. Go ahead and play that game. It's kind of a fun game. See if you can get the highest score. Here's a discussion. Again, we're not doing the discussions in the class. And finally, the setting goals quiz. I don't have the setting goals quiz here, so don't worry about doing that. Okay, section C. Now we're going to start talking about platforms or how your game is played. Let's go to the write-up. If we think about this in section C, so what are 4 reasons hardcore gamers stay away from console, and what's one major advantage of new generation platforms? So as you start thinking about gaming, then you all have lived through these different things. You have the Wii and the Xbox and those types of things. I started off with the Atari back in 1978 when my friend bought one. So they've changed over the years. So the platforms, so we're going to identify and differentiate between different gaming platforms. So the different types of platforms, way back in the day there was Magnavox Odyssey, Fairchild VES, and television. So they were breakthroughs, but now you would consider them obsolete and antiques. Then Atari, Sega, Sony, Nintendo, etc. Most popular, of course, today, PlayStation, Xbox, GameCube. They mostly support the same games, and then of course Wii with its wireless controllers. Of course now everybody's going wireless, aren't they? So depends on how you play. There's a debate on whether gameplay is better on a PC or a gaming console, and a lot of you might do them more on PCs. But if you look at this, hardcore gamers, they usually stay away from consoles because consoles are inflexible, they're less powerful, and have a simple interface, and they have bad screen resolution. So consoles, the technology isn't quite as good with consoles as it is with PC gaming, and you've probably all discovered that type of stuff. Although with new types of TVs coming out, HD TVs and things like that, I think we're going to see some changes. But this, anyway, is the answer to that one Class Connect write-up question. So consoles are finally catching up with the graphic performance of PCs. Next generation gaming, you can see that what happens, of course, is all of these are types of games and different things like that. But as we move along, like 2000 was really robust for gaming, for technology, but what's happened, the capacity of technology is growing as we move along. So you see that these days you can get some really high-level games done with technology capacity. And the thing about the games these days, if you look at the bottom of this list, major advantage of new generation platforms is that they are wireless. Of course, now you're getting with the handhelds with your smartphones and things like that, but that's the next Class Connect write-up question. What is one advantage of the new generation? You hear a couple of chess games you can play, so go look at those different games and see the difference between the 2D and the 3D chess games. Just to get your idea of, how the same game can be different if it's set up differently. Okay, platforms quiz right over here on the left. So again, make sure you look at the quiz previews before you do the quiz, since you cannot retake quizzes. Okay, section D. Go to the Class Connect write-up. And section D, for how many generations of gaming have there been? List the different generations of gaming and the dates they started. So now we're going to look at game generations. Of course, video games were commercial in the early 70s, meaning you could buy video games. In the 80s was a collapse, but then there's been a huge resurgence, $10 billion industry now. So in this section, we're going to look at the evolving nature of games and look at games as part of their generations. Now here's the tutorial on the generations of games. So you can play the tutorial to listen to it, or you can read this script, but go through this script or listen to that tutorial and it tells you all about the generations of games. And this tutorial will tell you everything you need to know for both of these questions 7 and 8. That's all in that presentation. So 7 and 8 is right in this presentation. Either play it or read the script to find those answers. Generations practice activity. See if you can do a matching on that, the different generations with the different games. Then there's a generations quiz right here. As I've said before, quiz preview right here to help you do the quizzes. Okay, section E, so we're almost wrapped up with this. Let's look at the write-up. And in section E write-up, I say, what does pseudo real-time mean in gaming? And what are the 4 modes in which Travian can be played? So section E. In section E, lots of games have different modes that one can play in, and that's one of the decisions you can make as a player is you decide which mode you want to play, whether you want to play against other people or you want to play against the computer, whatever it is. And especially with online games now, they're really changing where the multi-modes for you to use. So in this section, we're going to define player modes and look at 2 games that have different player modes. So Travian, it's a pseudo real-time multiplayer strategy game. And what pseudo real-time means is that the time in the game passes like real-time, meaning that if you want to make something, it takes time for you to make it. You just can't make it instantaneously. Like it says you can build a, I think it says you can build a granary, it might take 20 minutes, but then to upgrade it as you move throughout the game, it might take several hours. So pseudo real-time means that the time in the game passes like real-time. Things are not automatic. So what that does, it gives the feeling of real gaming, real-life gaming. Now go through this and you'll read about the different gaming modes in Travian, and then you'll be able to answer the questions on the left-hand side on the Class Connect write-up. Four-Wheel Madness. Go in here and look at an online racing game, have a little bit of fun with that. Then finally, the last thing, your first assignment. And this, of course, isn't for this week, so I'm not going to even cover this. This is for week 3. So that's all I have for this recording. We've gone through and answered all of these questions. And you'll turn in that Class Connect write-up. That's for the week 2-3 recording. But again, for week for the work, for the way it's set up, week 2 I have posted. Week 2 is section A and section B, but then week 3 will be sections C, D, and E, and then bigger assignments. So that's going to be for week 3, but this write-up is for both weeks combined. Okay, thanks for watching, and I look forward to work coming in. Bye.